Good afternoon, everyone. It is February 12th, 2023. What you're looking at is just a 4-hour chart of the RTH on the ES. Um, Before we get into the actual weekly outlook, I want to just briefly go over where we are in the bigger time frame and what we can sort of expect here. Um, I wrote this little bit of text back on the start of the month, or maybe at the end of last month. I can't remember. But anyway, before the month really got going. And what I was noting was that January was very tight of a range, under 300 points. We had the January close and the point of control. So all of the volume was done above December's value area high. So outside of where most of the trading occurred in December and way above January's VWAP. So in other words, to me, what was looking like was January was distributing what December had. So December we had accumulated all this crap really nicely in that range, and January had expanded it and done a lot of volume way above December's range for the most part. I think the December high was somewhere here, but most of the trading took place during these lows into the end of the year. I was also mentioning that I'm in favor of increased volatility. I think we've had that quite clearly, a nice upward trend since starting the month. So far, we have not had either of the big move I'm looking for, which is below 40.30. What I've been looking for is a move below here to get us into a flush to 39.15, where we did a bunch of volume. This key sort of pivot area that we've had for the past, whatever that is, 8 months, something like that. I want to see us get back into there, and then below we can get into sort of the main position from the end of the year. Uh, so that's how I'm kind of looking at this bigger time frame in general. So let's get into what we had last week. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. Maybe we'll just go to Twitter and throw it up here. There's me posing. Open image and new tab. So what I was looking for last week was a rotational week, and we really did get it. We had an inside week this week, and we were unable to break these swing areas of interest that I mentioned, 41.86 to 95. That ended up being our high of the week at 88 quarter, so one tick off my 88 level. And to the lows, we were unable to get into this 40.16 to 30 area. That same number I was mentioning over here, under 40.30, I'm looking for a flush. So we're unable to get down to those lows. We instead just had this inside week where we spent the beginning of the week just distributing the position, waiting for Jerome Powell. We got the Powell noise, distributed at the high. We were unable to get over that area of prior distribution from the week prior. Sold off, got back inside weekly value area, back to where the weekly POC was forming around 41.25. And I was saying that despite a nice wide range, most of the volume or value area high, I believe, was sitting at 43.75 right here. And I was saying if we can get above that, we could get a breakout going. That's what we had overnight. We had this breakout, which to me signaled a trend down day on Thursday, which is what we had. We had a nice trend down, got into that 40.90 area, and then we held those FOMC lows from the week prior. Yet we were unable to accept over the JPOW lows from that Tuesday session. So it was an interesting inside week, unable to get above these that JPOW speech lows, unable to get above the distribution, but we did hold the FOMC lows. So that's how that's my takeaway from the week, is that a nice inside week of continuing the distribution from last week, continuing to unable to really break any notable structure, unable to break that distribution high, unable to break the FOMC lows, unable to get into that 40.30, where we have so much stuff there that I'm very curious to see what happens when we get into there, if we get a bid or if we lose it and just flush. So how am I looking at this week? Let's get into this chart over here. This is just a 30-minute of all of our trading, the full external trading hours. News-wise, not a ton of news, but the news we do have is important. Tuesday, we've got CPI month over month and year over year. Wednesday, core retail sales, Empire State Manufacturing, all that stuff. Thursday, we've got PPI month over month, as well as the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index and unemployment claims. So all that sort of hitting at the same time for each of those. So I just noted the main one. All of our news this week is pre-market. It's all during the middle of the week. So what I'm looking for tomorrow, just because we do have CPI on the Tuesday, what I'm looking for is Monday in general, we usually have a quieter, smaller session, just even without the news. So, especially ahead of that CPI, what I'm going to expect is a smaller range. Just kind of what I want to see is us getting back inside this JPOW event, breaking Friday's highs. So, getting into this range over here, right around this pivot. The reason I have it as a pivot, nothing too complicated. That's our weekly point of control. That's also our weekly halfback. That's also, I believe, our monthly point of control is right around there. So it's just where all of this volume has been done during this this distribution cycle. Again, I'm seeing it as distribution. Uh, so this is where we've just had all of that volume done. It's just a halfback on the week. That's just how I'm looking at that as a pivot. So to me, that's just what I'm looking at. To the upside, now if we do start getting into this number, last week I was coming into the week saying 88 is key. This week I'm lowering that down. I'm saying 64 to, I think that's 67. Yeah, 64 to 67 this week will be key for me. The reason why that is because not only is that our weekly value area high, that's also, so again, weekly value area high just signifying 68% of where the volume has been done, the high end of that range. But if you expand that to be both the 91 and 95%, so 95% now being standard deviation 2, so really getting into the tail end of where the volume has occurred, and perhaps it's easier to see here. I know this is kind of a crazy chart, but you can see where these outer lines here are where that volume has also occurred. And you can see it's all sort of coming in right around 67. That's where we close the week. So not only is standard deviation 1 over there, that's also where standard deviation 2 is. So if we break over the 67 area, we'll be breaking some daily highs. We'll be breaking out of where a lot of the volume has occurred, where 95% of the volume has occurred. So to me, we end up breaking these prior distribution highs, and we get into that gap at 42.30, where the 4 p.m. Price gap closes. So that's what I'm looking at for the upside. To the downside, we have a little bit more room on those value areas. You can see that they're a little bit more spread out here. Regular value area low is way up at 06, roughly. And these 91, 93, and 95% are way down here at 75. So to me, we need to break this 75 area to get a flush of these lows, flush that 2022 value area high at 59.5, where we salvaged the bid on Friday overnight, and get into that 40-30 area where we can really see, are we going to flush all of this, or are we going to hold it and come back up to the position at 41.28? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking at my notes here, just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what we did. Yes, we're ending the week with a triple distribution, sort of. You can see one main distribution right around here, this kind of Friday trading, our main distribution in the middle, and our third distribution right around these highs. That's what I was talking about, where all the volume was done, around this 55 to 70 area. So we did have a triple distribution, and it was quite a balanced week. It was an inside week. Interestingly, this week's weekly value area high, the same as last week. That's all I really have in my notes. So that is what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is a quiet Monday where we return back towards that pivot area, or at the most we kind of churn within the value areas. I'm not expecting a big move. I'm expecting us to just trade within here, especially if we get above these Friday highs. I think we can get back into this 28, and then we can see if we're going to ride it up to 64 or if we're just going to sell back down. Tuesday with CPI, you can't really predict that, so we're just going to follow our key references and see where we're going. Wednesday retail sales, a little less important, but still some major news in PPI. Again, same like retail sales, not as important as CPI, but it will move the market around. So I'm just going to be following my key levels of interest where I can gauge where individuals are probably trapped or not, and that's how I'm going to be trading this. So tomorrow, looking for that quiet session. 28 is our pivot. 64 to 70 is how I'm gauging a probable breakout, and about 75 or whatever this is, 75-ish to 90 is how I'm gauging a possible breakdown to that 39, to that 40-30, and then 39.68 and 18. So hope that helps. I know a bit long, 10-minute video, but a lot to get in there. So to me, I'm still looking at this as overall distribution before we can head into lower prices. So I'm looking at this as all the distribution, and then we can come back into the pivot, and we can come back into these December lows, and we can see what happens from there. So hope that helps. Trade safe. Market opens in a few hours. That's all I have for you guys, and I'll make sure to post that Monday intraday plan later tonight. Have a good week and trade safe.